Frontline with Kortney Kenny, and I'm Tom Parisi, and today we got a great set of guests.
It's going to be an action-packed episode of the Frontline Podcast. I'm your host, Kortney Kenny, and I'm pleased to be joined by, for the first time, a local celeb. Well, not for the first time in the podcast, but for the first time as a co-host, a local celebrity, Mr. Bob Coles. Thanks for stepping up, Bob. We really appreciate you stepping in at the 9th hour here, or 11th hour here. And
bottom of the 9th inning. Hope we can win the game, though. That's the only thing, right?
Absolutely. And back both for their second tours of duty on the Frontline Podcast, Simon Rose and Mitch Russell. Gentlemen, always a thrill to have you guys on. Really enjoyed both your episodes back in, the winter, back when we thought we were still going to get a season, but now here we are on the cusp of another season. So thanks for joining us on the Frontline.
Thanks for having us.
So I got to ask, the last time we talked to you, there was going to be a season still. And I just take us through what it was like finding out that the season was canceled and all that stuff that was kind of going through your head.
Go ahead, Rosie.
Just like preparing all winter and then getting let down and preparing, getting let down and preparing, getting let down. It's kind of just a mental, I don't know the word, border. We just kept crossing and it just kept shutting us down. So I don't know, it sucks, but it's good that we're finally here and ready to go. I think the boys are ready. You, Mitch?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously it was tough. You get training for a couple months and you have a date in your head, and then it gets shut down, and then you get another date and it gets shut down. So that was probably the toughest part of trying to come back. But like Rosie said, we're grateful we're here now, and I think the boys are ready to go.
Now, knowing that you didn't have a date last year, like how did you guys approach last year knowing that? I mean, at some point they could have called it, right? They could have said, you're coming to North Bay in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, so you obviously had to be ready. How did you approach, as the season moved along, how did you approach your preparation and your fitness?
Yeah, I think just being ready at all times, like obviously, like you said, they could have been like in a week we're starting up. So I think everyone's mentality, I know at my gym, was just be ready every week, and whenever we get the call, we'll be ready to go.
Yeah, no, like training wasn't like it usually is with like a program leading up to like a knowing date. So it's just we were going steady and just on every week.
So how excited are you guys? I mean, I know we've been excited. We've been talking about this for a couple of months now, and we're just ready to see you guys hit the ice and play some preseason games, and then the regular season in 3 weeks. So how pumped are you guys to just, to play meaningful games, not against the guys you're competing with on your team, but against other teams and other players? It must be exciting for you.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we haven't played games in a while, and I think for some of us, just getting back to the rink with the guys was a big enough, shock, I guess, since we haven't played in so long. But I think everyone's really excited for Saturday, and I think you're going to see some of our best hockey compete-wise on Saturday.
Yeah, it's what we're working for. Nothing better than playing a game after practicing for 18 months, right? So we're all ready.
So I got to ask about camp. Simon, you got into some games, of course, but Mitch, you didn't get into many games. So the first part of the question is, Simon, what was it like to get back into those scrimmages and competing like that? And Mitch, how frustrating was it to kind of sit there and watch?
Go ahead.
Just like it was good just getting out there and seeing some fans in the building and just having that compete and guys fighting for spots, trying to make the team. Just meeting new faces. Like I hadn't seen really any of the picks being an Ottawa Valley guy. Like I know all the other guys were skating together in Toronto, so I wasn't a part of that. So just getting to know the guys and being in that compete scenario again, it's a good feeling to be back part of.
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, it's frustrating not playing in the games, but I've been fortunate enough to be practicing with all the guys and being able to be with them every day and in the gym. So I think for me, it's more about taking the positives and just trying to get ready for the first regular season game.
Now, both you guys are with the year, you're, two of the experienced guys on the team, right? I mean, especially with, the third year guys now really have only played one season, and you guys have more experience than that group. So how are you handling the leadership role? Because you got the double cohort coming in, plus you got a lot of so-called second year players coming back for a second year in the OHL, even though it's their third season. How do you approach your leadership in terms of this team?
Yeah, I don't know. I think for Rosie and I, it's more of just leading by example. There's a lot of guys that obviously, like you said, we have two groups of first year players coming in. So I think for us, there's a lot of them. So if we just lead by example, they'll follow us and do the right things.
Yeah, like this is my fifth, would have been my fifth year with the team. I've been here since I was 16. Like Mitch came our 17-year-old year, the year after. Like we've been here, we know what it's like. Just I don't know, it's different having two sets of years of rookies because they're all kind of just trying to figure it out. But I think just what Mitch said, leading by example, giving it everything in practice every day is just what we need right now.
How different was a training camp that was run by Ryan Houlihan compared to years past for you guys?
We pretty much did all the same off-ice testing, but games were different because we had packages going out during COVID, and a lot of the new guys knew our systems, so it was cool that our systems were being implemented within our inter-squad games, rather than just guys coming out and not really knowing much, and we're all kind of just shooting the puck around. It was system. It was good compete. It was a really good camp, I thought.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think just a bit more structure this year. Obviously, I was watching pretty closely, so like Rosie said, we saw a lot of our system work in the games, and we haven't really seen that in past years. So I think that's pretty cool to see.
How are guys finding their roles at this point in terms of, because there's so many new faces, new players, in terms of your roles on the team? How's that developed over the training camp?
Yeah, I think I don't know, it's tough right now with guys being away at NHL camps and obviously not playing real game, but I think a lot of our guys are capable of playing more than one role. So I think once we get a couple of games, then everyone will just kind of fall into place like they're supposed to, and we'll get going from there.
Nailed that one on the head.
When it comes to, I know it's been a couple of years now since you came to North Bay, Mitch, but when it comes to a preseason game against your former team like the Owen Sound Attack, is there still a little bit of extra get up and giddy in your step?
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I mean, I guess there is, but at the same time, a lot of the guys that I played with obviously are now gone, but I still know some of the coaches and the equipment guys are still there. So obviously I play every game hard, but definitely that game is nice if I can sweep one by or something.
Are you,
Simon? I was going to ask just Simon about, in terms of your game this year. You're like we talked about before, you're sort of being counted on to help the players. And do you sort of not think about less individually maybe, but in your game, how do you incorporate that sort of in your game? Do you think about your game differently now that you're one of the veterans, as opposed to, just trying to, when you're first in the league, you're trying to make a team, you're trying to just get ice time. It's not really an issue for you anymore, but in terms of the leadership question and whether that changes when you become one of the leaders on the team.
Yeah, I don't like in practices, knowing these systems and doing these drills and having already implemented them in regular season games. I know just doing drills, I've been trying to do them right and do our systems perfectly, so the younger players see what I'm doing and kind of aspire to do the same and just be a good leader, starting in practice. And changing my game in any way, probably not. I'm not a very vocal guy, but I just kind of do things the way I do them and hope that it catches along with the younger guys.
with the pair of you, I wanted to ask, I know we touched on, training and all that stuff during the COVID shutdown and all that. But personally for you, was like, we've talked to Luke Moncada and stuff, and he talked about how he started carpentry and, was watching TV shows and all this stuff a lot. For you guys, the quarantine itself and the lockdowns, how was it for you? Did you pick up any new hobbies? Did you pick up any new interests and stuff like that? Or was it just kind of work and look ahead to the next OHL season?
Yeah, I think obviously a big part was training. Just with the dates and stuff, you didn't know if you had time to pick up something new or something like that. But I guess at the start of quarantine, we had a lot of free time. I have a pretty big property around my house, so me and my dad and my brother were golfing around our house, but we were shut down pretty good. So I have a home gym as well. I was fortunate enough to have that. So I think just training, a little bit of fun and games around the house was about it for me.
Yeah, no, I hit the links a lot, but with all the COVID, a lot of schools were in need of teachers assistants. So I was working with the RC DSB school board in the Ottawa Valley, and I was a teacher's assistant for a couple months there during COVID.
So you guys all settled in to North Bay at this point? You got different billets, the same billets? How's that come down for you here in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I've actually been with my billets since I've been in North Bay, so they've been really good. And I got up for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks in the summer with them as well. So I'm pretty close to them. So yeah, happy to be back here.
Yeah, same billet for me too. Love being here. I just miss being around here, seeing my billet mom Sheila coming out of the house. It's just nice to be back.
How has I think it's just watching. I think it was important that you basically have the same coaching staff, right? There have been no changes in the staff in terms of what their expectations are for the players. When we last played hockey, you guys really had picked it up in those 5 to 10 games before they shut it down. But how important is that to have not only Ryan back, but Scott and Bill, the same guys behind the bench, and especially when you haven't been on the ice in such a long stretch.
Yeah, I think obviously that's really important. I think a lot of our returning guys are comfortable with all three of them, and I think with this group, with all our young talent that we've seen so far, we're going to pick up right where we left off at the end of 2 years ago now.
It's been a really good change for us in North Bay, I feel like, and I think a lot of the guys are really accepting his ways and our systems, and I think it's going to be exactly how we left it off too.
Speaking of Uli, how important is it to have, everybody on the bench as somebody who's kind of lived that OHL lifestyle, in years past for you guys, and can kind of tell you, maybe stay away from this and look more for this type of thing?
Yeah, I think all three of them, like you said, they've been in our shoes before. So I think they're really understanding, and I think that's why our players connect with them so well. I know in the past, my past teams, it's been a little bit of a barrier with that connection with the coaches. So I think North Bay has done a really good job of that. And I think that's why a lot of our younger guys and older guys, for that matter, are really comfortable here.
Yeah, nobody's afraid to ask questions or, make mistakes. If it's all part of learning, and we have a young team, so there's a lot of mistakes can be made, but it's about the coaching that's going to push us in the right direction.
For you, Mitch, 2 out of the 3 guys are played as forwards and they played in the pro game. What are they like as, encyclopedias to kind of soak in and all that stuff? And for you, Simon, I mean, one of the guys played at the NHL level who was a defenseman. What's that like for you, or playing the position? And he's been at the peak of the sport.
Yeah, I think obviously just little tips and tricks that they've seen in the pro game before us. And I think Uli and both Razor do a really good job of just giving us little tips. I know they're little details, but at the end of the day, they make a big difference. And I know Billy as well. He does a lot of D drills with the D, and he's been there before and he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, like over the past 5 years, I worked a lot with Billy, and he's really helped shape my game, especially with pucks off the glass, pucks off the wall, picking them up. He just knows how it's done.
So I wanted to ask, of course, there's anticipation because it's been I mean, it's been harped into of how long it's been, but also the fact that, there's some young up and coming guys along with, some experienced vets that are exciting players as well. How different does this feel for you guys as players than it has in years past, where it almost feels like there's an expectation on you guys right out of the gate?
Yeah, I think obviously with our young talent, I mean, I think Denny did a real good job of maybe stealing a couple players from the draft. And I think our young talent's really exciting. And I think our older pieces to the puzzle are a perfect fit. So I think we have the full package. And right from the back end, I think, like I said, we have a full package. And I think we can do some damage this year.
We've definitely got it going on this year.
Well, Ty Nelson was on last week and he said he can't wait to wow everyone. So I feel like that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from almost everybody on the team right now. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I think for sure that's kind of our right from day one, our goal is to be the best team. So I think every day at practice, everyone's just working as hard as we can to achieve that goal.
Mitchell, you played in Owen Sound and you've been out in the community at various fundraising events since you've been here. Maybe Simon, not as many, but certainly you gotten involved as well. It's just, it just seems to me that you guys know what this team means to this community, right? And maybe just talk a little about that, about playing in a smaller community, maybe compared to Mississauga or Barrie or whatever, Kitchener, London. What does that mean to you guys that the team means so much to the how people feel about the community?
Yeah, for sure. I think we all understand that. I mean, I know even my billets, for example, when there's a battalion game on, they're pumped up, ready to watch. So I think this year even more so with no hockey in 18-20 months. I think this is our year to really show them how good we are and get everyone behind us this season.
Yeah, it's an unreal feeling when you go to like a little elementary school and you're talking to all the kids and, the team works out deals for the whole school to come watch us play. And, some people that don't always get the opportunity to come watch us get that opportunity and to see the smile on their face. It's awesome for this community.
I know when it comes to puck drop, you guys are focused on one goal and one goal only, and that's walking out of the Gardens or wherever you're playing with it with 2 points and a W. With the capacity limit set to 1,000 as of right now, we don't know if that will change in the upcoming days or even months. Is there kind of like a little bit of it kind of sucks that we're only getting 1,000? Or are you just excited to play in front of fans again?
Yeah, I think everyone's just excited to play. I mean, 0 fans, 1,000 fans, 5,000 fans. At this point, I don't think it really matters. We know our fans are behind us if they're at the game or not. So I think for us, it's more about just playing hockey and getting the W, like you said.
Yeah, no, that's it.
I was going to ask you guys about the schedule because it's a little bit different this year, other than a few games against the Sioux. Everything's within the conference. You got more divisional games. What kind of battles are you guys gonna be facing when you play Sudbury more, when you play Barrie more? There could be some long nights, right? From the pretty intense hockey that maybe we haven't seen in the past. What do you make of the schedule changes due to COVID, of course, but what do you think of the schedule changes in the all the games in the East?
Yeah, I think obviously it sucks not being able to play the other side. But at the same time, I think every game is going to be a little bit of a bloodbath. So it's going to be playoff hockey all year round. And I think that'll suit our team very well. I think every night we're going to be ready to compete and get 2 points.
Yeah, no, it's nice. We're playing a lot of teams the same, a lot. 10-game series, and it's just going to be little battles for us over the season. Like we have 10 games with a team. It's going to be let's get more than like 8 out of that series. Like it'll be little series within the season, which is going to be different. But it's going to be nice. It's going to be like a baseball season.
And the other point is the type of team. Like for people who are maybe just tuning into this podcast, and they want to know what type of team the Battalion are. What would you guys say?
Yeah, I think we're going to be a team that competes every night. I think we have a lot of fast players, and we're going to play with high pace, but at the same time, we're going to stay within our structure. And we also have a lot of guys that can do a little dirty dangle and put the puck in the back of net. So I think overall will be a fun team to watch. Seems like we have guys that can do it all. So I think the fans are in for a treat.
Oh yeah, lots of physicality. Guys are hungry.
How are the nerves heading up to, or excitement level heading up to October 7th against the Petes? I mean, I know for you, Simon, you see your face on the billboard every time you go to the Gardens. So what's it like for you guys?
Exciting, like just being able to come out of that tank with the home opener. The best game of the year is our home opener. Everybody's fired up in the room. All the boys are ready to go. It's what we've been working for these past 18 months. It doesn't get more exciting than that.
Yeah, I think for our group, it's been a bit of a countdown till October 7th. So I think you'll see pretty high energy come October 7th night for sure.
Well, gentlemen, we really appreciate you taking the time this evening to talk to Bob and I. Mitch, again, thanks for coming on, and you as well, Simon. We look forward to seeing you guys on the ice. Well, with the preseason, I guess by the time the recording goes out, the Owen Sound game will be over already. But we're excited to see you on the ice this weekend and next weekend. But of course, when the games really start to count on October 7th. So thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Best of luck this season.
See ya. Thank you.
All right, we are back. A huge thank you to Mitch Russell and Simon Rose for joining us on the first half of the Frontline, and of course, Bob for being my wonderful co-host this episode. You might have noticed, or if you're listening to the podcast, you probably don't notice because you can't really see things, but if you're watching on YouTube or your TV, you might have noticed that we have a third head back in with us. It's Matt Sookram. He's returning for another go around here on the podcast. Matt, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Always happy to be able to join you guys.
Well, we certainly appreciate it. But before we get into, we got some trades. The Battalion are making some trades. I'll go through them here real quick. Today, as of recording, Ty Hallett has been sent to the Kitchener Rangers for a 5th round pick in the 2025 OHL priority selection. James Mayotte, who I thought had a really good camp for the Battalion a couple of weeks ago, he was sent to Flint earlier this week for a 6th round pick in 2025. And probably the biggest one of them all, and it might not even be a player who doesn't even play for the Battalion, Adam Fantilli. His rights now belong to the North Bay Battalion as the troops picked him up from the Saginaw Spirit for 5 picks, which 4 of them being conditional. The only one that is actually going through is a 6th round pick. Forgive me, I don't remember the year as of right now. But yeah, gentlemen, the Battalion are pretty busy here before their first preseason game against the Owen Sound Attack here on Saturday, which of course is the day before this episode comes out. But gentlemen, what is Adam Dennis doing? What is he doing?
Well, he feels good about his defense depth. I think a couple of things. He feels pretty good about his depth. And obviously in the camp, you mentioned the training camp, Kennedy and Govro impressed a lot of people. And so when you have depth, like you said, I mean, Hallett, he's going to the Ottawa camp, and he's probably there already. And you mentioned Mayotte, so you got a situation in which you've just got so much depth on defense that they're not going to have ice time here.
No. And
so you made moves. As for Fantilli, I think the Battalion, that's just a good move by the Battalion. They obviously, he's gonna be playing probably, in the United States. He's not going to be in the OHL, but it just says a lot. I posted this on Facebook the other day. It says a lot about the Battalion as an organization that they're able to make this deal, because you would figure if he wasn't going to come here and there was no way he was going to come here, they wouldn't have made that trade.
Mm-hmm.
But, he apparently is going to play this season down south and then in Chicago. But after that, maybe next year, who knows? Like, and I think it shows that he has a good relationship with the family, with the agent, Adam Dennis does, that he's confident enough to make this move. And maybe next season, who knows? He could come here. So I think it says a lot about the Battalion organization that they're developing these relationships with parents, with agents, that they can make aggressive moves like they've made this week.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing about the depth for the defensive side. It's all good.
You could say Bob hit the
I've
nail
heard
on
you
the head
heard,
with that
you've
one.
heard that phrase a couple of times already tonight, but it's so true with and this is what I was alluding to on the last time I was on the podcast, was just, are more teams going to be willing to give those second and first year guys a shot, even though your second year guys are actually rookies?
Mhm.
And so how much time do you have to give them, and how much ice time do you trust them with right off the bat? And I mean, Hallett didn't play too many games with North Bay, but I was pretty impressed when he was up there. And I thought James Mayotte was developing into a kind of a cornerstone piece. But that's I guess it's not really a downside, because they did find new homes, and they're going to get to continue their OHL careers. It's not like they're just getting dumped off the waiver wire or anything like that. But that, I guess, that is kind of the downside. One of the downsides to having the lost season of the COVID pandemic is that even if you feel as a player you might have improved, the coaching staff in the front office just goes, they're making maybe a lot of assumptions based on what they had seen from you previously. And there's probably so much more allure to the guy that you don't know, but has more upside, you feel. So that's what I think is part of these deals, is that they just want to go with what they feel is the upside, as opposed to where they think the ceiling already is with the guys they moved out.
And you got to remember, guys, we're looking at, especially Mayotte, the last time he was in a Battalion jersey was a year and a half ago.
Yep.
I mean, that's a long time. We said this before in the podcast too. That's a long time in a junior hockey player's career.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's half your career,
Yep.
right? For the top players.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that. That's like half that's like from being a 16-year-old to being an 18-year-old. I mean, and that's what, we got to remember that with all these moves. I mean, we just had Simon and Mitchell on our podcast, and, like, they're the veterans of this team.
Mm-hmm.
And fourth year players, right? And because we got to remember, the third year players have only played one season.
Yeah.
So it's just, they have more players to choose from, all that stuff. And so you're right, we're going to see more of these trades as the season goes along. I think older players traded, and because the younger players, their development.
And again, it's not even, they didn't even play a full season. I mean, I know it's only 6 games short, right? But for some of them, not so much the Battalion, but for teams in the rest of the league, like, not only did their rookies not get a full season, but they didn't even get any playoff experience either.
Yeah.
So for the Battalion, at least, that puts some of their players on even footing with guys on other teams that are in that same boat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's wild that you can make these two trades, sending Hallett and sending Mayotte off your team, and you still can kind of pencil out your top 4 or even your top 6. With Ty Nelson, Paul Christopoulos, Matt Mathurin, Simon Rose, Avery Winslow, and then you want to give Lucan a shot, since he's your import pick.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. That's probably your starting 6 on opening night. So, for Mayotte and Hallett, it was just a matter of numbers, I think. Sorry, Bob.
No, I was just going to say that, it says a lot about, just the craziness of how things have changed. Like a couple of years ago, I couldn't imagine them trading a James Mayotte
Exactly.
a week before the season started. He would have been penciled in as your number 4 defenseman.
Mm-hmm.
And like they have so much depth throughout their lineup now. And plus, I also think they want a younger vibe on this team, right? They've drafted a lot of young players who they have confidence in, and I think they want a younger vibe. So give the young kids a chance and see what they can do. They obviously feel good about the picks they've made, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Well, case in point, when I look at the article about Ty Hollett on the Battalion website, battalionhockey.com, in case you didn't already know that, the veterans on this D.
Very good, Kortney. Very good.
See, they should pay me a little bit more for just plugging in things like that. It's like I should go for a job in commercials or something. The vets on this D is just Simon Rose, Paul Christopoulos, and Avery Winslow. And keep in mind, Avery Winslow and Paul Christopoulos are your third-year players. You know, like Avery Winslow only played 1 year, and it was the shortened year, and same with Paul Christopoulos. So now you're looking at the signees, or players that are on the team: Ty Nelson, Tanias Mathern, Cam Govra, Wyatt Kennedy, and Alexander Lukin. So the vibe has definitely changed, where they're looking more at a younger team, of course, and obviously this coaching staff is more than okay with it, and we got that vibe the last year the Battalion played too, because it was a young team. But there's only 3 guys on your D that have played games in the OHL, and so it's pretty interesting
Crazy,
in that
yeah.
sense. Like it's just absolutely crazy.
But I think what they're saying is that experience isn't going to really matter as much this year. They feel like they can still be competitive.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Which, yeah, is again a completely different vibe to what it was like years previously, where the team did want to hang on to those guys, or they made trades, right?
Yep.
I mean, I listed it off on the last podcast we were on, but guys like Theo Calvis coming in early in the year. Wasn't Nick Grima or Nick King, one of those guys was an early season pickup as well?
Nick Green or Grima was.
Grima was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and then
King was a little later.
Well, King was mid-October. He was kind of part of that. He was young too at that time. Like he was part of that. Brady Lyle was asking out, and they got prop. And then the next day, all of a sudden, Nick King was here too, because there's a second trade in as many days. But
yeah, so the team has made those moves.
Liberati, Thompson,
to go and get veteran D guys.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then I mentioned
Yeah,
Thompson,
I think,
but yeah, still.
I think the team is they want to check all the boxes this year. I think they want to check all the boxes. They want to check the skill box.
Mhm.
They want to check the physical box. They want to check the intensity box. And I think if you look down their roster, that explains a lot, right? They believe they have more skill than they've had in a long time throughout the lineup. And with the schedule, so many games against the same opponent. I mean, we just had the guys on, and they're expecting, what did Mitchell call it, a bloodbath every night? I mean, they're expecting some wars out there, as you're playing the same team, 3 games in a row sometimes. So, that's important. And developing chemistry, I think, is another factor that, they believe they have the chemistry with this younger vibe. And I think if you look at those 3 areas, explains a lot about their roster and the way they're going to play.
I also think that's why the depth is going to be a major factor this year, especially on the blue line. Because if you are playing the same team 3 games in a row, you gotta show them. If you didn't win the first game, you gotta show them something different in game 2, right? Or and just giving different guys those opportunities to mix and match in the lineup. I mean, if you're right off the bat, if you're winning and you've got a lineup and a winning formula that works, then you're probably going to stick with it. But I mean, no one's going to go 68-0 in an OHL season, right? So there's going to be times where you're going to be called upon, and again, facing a team 3 times in a row in one weekend, you're going to throw different guys out there because you don't want them to get used to a certain way, or you don't want the other team to get comfortable with the team that they're going up against.
And think about it, guys, like in a normal 68 game season, how many back-to-backs will you have, like against the same team? You might have 3 or 4 at the most. Even divisional rivals, you wouldn't play back-to-back that much. They'd be spread out throughout the year, but
yeah,
because of COVID and no games against the West except the Sioux. 4 of the Sioux games are back-to-back.
Yeah.
And then within the division, just to save on time on the road, time on the bus, they'll do back-to-backs, right? Like against Sudbury, against Barrie, et cetera.
Yep.
So it's, the players are going to get familiar with each other. That's for sure.
Well, the nice thing that we can say about this battalion team is that every single night there's going to be at least one good player. Like there's going to be a good player that's going to have to sit. Like, because there's not going to be enough, like on your point, Matt, with the, the winning formula or, change it up. There's going to be a good player that's going to sit, because we talk about just the D alone, Wyatt Kennedy, Cam Govro, Simon Rose, Avery Winslow, Tanias Mathern, Ty Nelson, Paul Christopoulos, the list goes on. There's going to be a good player out of that group that's not playing.
Yeah.
And that's something that we haven't been able to say in years past.
And that's where earning your ice time is going to be so important if you're one of those guys this year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a cliche, but it's going to be like every shift is going to matter.
Well,
there's going to be a lot to prove this year.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the coaching staff, the whole coaching staff has come back this year.
Yeah.
I think that's crucial for them. I think it's crucial for them because not only have they coached the players who haven't played here before, they're very specific about their jobs and their responsibilities. They're not screamers. They're not yellers. They're just, it's saying, okay,
Yep.
this is, and they've established the way they coach with the returning players. And that'll help them coach the guys that are here, because they are respected on the bench. There's no doubt that the players here, the returning players here, respect their coaching staff. And so there's chemistry already there. And I think having the same group of coaches back after not seeing hockey for a while is key.
Absolutely. But changing gears a little bit because we're all very excited for the battalion to start off. We're going to touch on one of the hypotheticals, which we already kind of touched on, the trade. I do have it in front of me, what the exact deal for Adam Fantilli was. So it is a 6th round pick for sure going to Sarnia in 2022, which is the upcoming OHL priority selection. And then
Saginaw, right?
To Saginaw, yes.
Yes.
And then the 4 conditional picks is Owen Sound's 3rd rounder in 2023, the Kingston Frontenac 2nd rounder in 2024, Saginaw's own 4th rounder, which the battalion owned. They're sending back to Saginaw in 2024 as well, and North Bay's 2nd round pick in 2025. Those are the conditional ones. So that they're all based on if Fantilli comes next year or the year after or something, which someone like his talent, I doubt that we're looking at a year after situation. He might be a next year type of thing, because we've heard a lot of things about Adam Fantilli. I remember the season that the last season the battalion played. I remember it was the tank for Fantilli. Basically, it felt like at the time, and then the team started playing great, and then the shutdown, and we got Ty Nelson, which is honestly a great pick by the battalion brass, because after finding out that Fantilli really wanted to play with his brother in Chicago, which you can't fault him for whatsoever. It's his destiny, but to get Ty Nelson still, who was thought of as the 1B to Fantilli's 1A of that draft, to still get Ty Nelson to want to come to North Bay and be such a great ambassador so far is still great. And if Fantilli comes, you basically have the 2 best players from the top of that draft on your team now, which is absolutely insane. And kudos to Adam Dennis for trying to make that happen.
Yeah, to me that's wild. So he turned 17 on October 12th. So that means he's going to be eligible to play in the OHL for what, 3 more years after this?
Yeah.
Wow. I
And
mean,
I think he's past the cutoff date too for the NHL draft, because I think it's September. I could be wrong.
so I mean, yeah, it's an amazing deal. I mean, at worst, you lose a 6th-round pick. At best, you bring in Adam Fantilli. Yeah,
Here's my
that's
take
amazing.
here's my take, guys, on this. Because people are saying, kids are different, right? I mean, kids' personalities are different. Ty Nelson's got a very exuberant personality. He's very confident in his abilities, and he should be. He's very talented. He's going to go great places, but he's very confident. He likes to put it out there, and that's great. But Adam Fantilli doesn't seem to be that kind of, right? He seems much quieter. He wants to play with his brother. He's really close to his family. And I just think so maybe he's being a little conservative. Enjoy this season playing with his brother. See what happens with how well he does. And then maybe make an adjustment next year. So it's just, I think, yeah, and obviously if he came up here for one season, that wouldn't be bad, having the top 2 players in that draft in the battalion. But if it doesn't happen, it shows to me how aggressive Adam Dennis is in getting players and spreading the message about, what kind of program they're running, in North Bay. So I don't think it's not like a win-lose for the battalion. It's a win-win.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting what happens, but it's it's going to be an interesting story to follow, especially, after this season. I think the ball will definitely be in Fantilli's court.
These are the kind of moves that really separate your franchise, whether he comes here or not. Like you said, it shows how aggressive Adam Dennis wants to be. I think it also sends a message to all prospective OHL players. It sends a message to all current OHL players around the league that the team has a vision and has a goal of being an upper echelon OHL model franchise. It also sends a message to your own players that we are never done improving this team. Yeah. So, we're going to go out there and find the guys that want to play if we feel like you can't make the cut, right? And that's, I think, you don't want to be like, hey, you got to watch over your shoulder because someone's coming. You don't want to reinforce that every single day. But at the same time, you do want to reinforce that you're trying to build a winning culture and you're going to do what it takes to try and get that done.
Absolutely. Just on the Fantilli age question or situation, I just looked up the NHL draft eligibility, and it is all players who will be 18 years old on or before September 15th and not older than 19 years old before December 31st of the draft year. So Adam Fantilli will not, if I'm reading that correct, and of course it's all wishy-washy, Adam Fantilli will be eligible for the NHL draft 2023, not 2022. So if he does come, you have, and that's what's important about it, right? Is it sounds like he's going to be, if everything goes right, he's going to be a top NHL draft pick who has the potential to, once he's done playing and gets drafted, he has the potential to never come down to amateur levels of hockey or major junior, because he's going to be one of those top guys. We're looking at Kingston right now, who's been robbed of a year of Shane Wright. He's probably not coming back, right? So once he's taken, it's certainly a question. And that's something that we haven't.
Even our neighbors just to the west of us in Sudbury, right, with Quinton Byfield, everyone knew that he's only going to be here for 120 games, right?
Just the 2 years.
The thing that's kind of unfortunate about Byfield is he was sent down to the Ontario Reign last year because of COVID. He didn't make the Kings right out of camp. If that's a regular year, he's sent back to Sudbury and can't be called up.
Yep.
So Sudbury would have
Yeah.
got,
So they missed out on that.
Yeah, they would have got a gift year of Quentin Byfield that they didn't think they were gonna get.
Yeah.
And well, they wouldn't have gotten Quentin Musty, that's for sure. But yeah, it's
yeah. If they had Quentin Byfield, there's no way they're getting Quentin Musty.
no. So it's.
But I
interesting.
remember when the OHL draft hype in the Fantilli year, all the experts, were saying he was going to go, wasn't going to close who was going to go number one. So, and he hasn't played a game yet. So that in the OHL, and but it's like the hype you get from being a top pick is crazy. It's just crazy. And it just strikes me as, that week I was just on the Twitter feed he was like every third tweet or whatever it was. and it's been so much time has passed, right? So much time has passed, and it'll be interesting to follow this story as it moves along.
It will be, and it'll be interesting to see if the Battalion can pry him away from his commitment to Michigan as well, which is another factor that we haven't really touched on. He's playing for the Chicago Steel of the USHL this year, and he's got a commitment to Michigan, who, look at the top 5 picks in the NHL draft this past year. They've got a powerhouse building in Michigan right now.
Yeah,
so
they
it's
really do.
It's kind of like maybe he does want to go to Michigan, but please come to North Bay. We would really like you here. And from what I've heard, leading into the draft, he was very impressed with the presentation from the Battalion, and he really did like what North Bay was selling. So if he was to come to the OHL, North Bay was on his list of preferred destinations, which is something, again, we haven't heard in previous years. So the narrative's changing.
It reminds me of the Cam Deneen situation. Deneen was ready to go to I can't remember which college it was now, and that's why he fell to being a 7th round
something late
OHL draft pick, and no one thought that he was going to turn into what he was, let alone come to North Bay. But yeah, the Battalion were able at that point. A ton of credit goes out to Stan Butler for being able to convince Cam Deneen to not play hockey in the States and come to the OHL, and he ends up as a member of the Arizona Coyotes. He was drafted by that franchise, and I remember talking to Cam late in the year that he ended up getting traded, and he said this was the best decision I made. He gives a lot of kudos and credit to the franchise, and so that's really the last time I remember an impact player already having a commitment, but then deciding to come to North Bay.
Well, to me, it's interesting that, and it's good. I think the kids have options now of where they want to, do they just want to do 100% hockey, which is what the OHL is, or do they want more? They want to enjoy the university college experience by going to Michigan or a U.S. college, and and you get the competitiveness at the college system, just like you do in junior hockey. So it depends on the player, depends on and you've got to you got to move away from home at a younger age. You're not going into college till you're 18, so it gives players more options, more choices. So I think it's a good thing for the player and for the family. And players make decisions based on their own situations. Like you said, Cam Deneen and obviously the Fantilli kid at this point, a little different.
And the story I was told on Deneen was they convinced him to come up just to see North Bay. They say, just come up here, just see what we have cooking, and all this stuff. And I think before he even left North Bay on that trip, he was like, all right, let's go, let's sign. So and that's the thing too, is, we live here, so we're a little biased, and we're like, come to North Bay and all this stuff. But you get up here and you see, if you were excited about what the team was doing then, come up here and see what the team is doing now. And also I think he's obviously going to hear some good things from his buddy Ty Nelson and his old former coach John Winstanley. But there is some connections there. But I must say this now because I want to get out ahead of this in case it doesn't happen. But don't be upset if he doesn't come. Like, again, at worst, all you gave up was a 6th-round pick. And it's totally, as Bob mentioned, it's totally his call where he wants to go. And no one can fault him for wanting to play with his brother. It's a unique situation. He might never have that opportunity again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I agree. I think it's a great move, regardless of what the outcome ends up being. Again, it shows the other 19 teams in the league that you're in this to win.
And I think it's also example of the professionalism by the battalion in terms of selling Adam Fantilli and his parents on North Bay, and that's what it is. It's right. 100%. It's a presentation, and you've got to sell it to them. That is they're going to take care of him while he's here, and he's going to have great billets, and he's going to be supported by the organization, and I think it says a lot about that presentation, and it also says about the parents who were, from what we've heard, just totally impressed with the presentation they got. It's just players made the decision this year anyway to play with his brother and just develop down there. So I think it says a lot about. I was really impressed with the professionalism of the battalion and trying to attract this player and the family and the way they handled the presentation. So it's I think it's good news for North Bay. Like I say, it's a win either way.
Well, and I remember even the week leading up to the 2020 OHL draft, it was still, are the battalions still going to take him regardless? Like there was a serious question in the air, and now they took Ty Nelson and they have the rights to Adam Fantilli, like we mentioned. So it's kind of like it doesn't really, if we could go back to April 2020 and talk to our past selves and be like, no, it's all going to work out. Don't worry about it.
No, I would think you're crazy. That's never going to happen.
What are you talking about? Right. Like, also we were we were so PTSD filled and ridden by being like, oh no, what things are going good. What are you talking about? But anyways, there's a pandemic going on right now. There's no way hockey's happening. What are you talking about? I just wanted to say, it's a great, like, as you mentioned, it's a great move. And if he gets up here, it's something else. But one thing I wanted to touch on before we go is because Tom and I haven't really discussed it yet, other than briefly, is a bunch of the battalion players away at NHL camps, which is a high number, and we haven't seen that in years past. Like Ty Holland, who's now a member of the Kitchener Rangers, but he at the time a member of the battalion when he goes to the Ottawa Senators camp. Kyle Jackson invited to Nashville. Paul Christopoulos invited to Carolina. Brandon Coe, of course, with the Sharks. Mason Primo with the Golden Knights. Joe Verbetic with the Habs. Matvei Petrov with the Edmonton Oilers. And Avery Winslow, who has yet to get up to North Bay because he figured I might as well just stay in my home state, is with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then he'll be making his way up here. Gentlemen, I don't think we've ever seen a cohort like this, this amount of players at NHL camps in years past. If I'm forgetting it, please remind me, but I don't, at least in my time covering the team, have not seen this many players go.
I think in the second year of the battalion we're up here, they had quite a few guys away.
Not that many though, right?
Not that many.
And not younger players.
Not younger
these
players.
Seem to be guys entering their last year as opposed to
these
guys who have, many of them just getting started.
Yeah. Like, I mean, you look at that list, bring it back up. You look at that list, Ty Holland, of course, with Kitchener now. He was just, his first year of NHL draft eligibility was last year. Kyle Jackson was just passed over for the first time. Paul Christopoulos, again, the first time. And Avery Winslow was passed over twice. But the other guys, Coe, Primo, Verbetic, Petrov, they're all actual drafted players. So as you mentioned, it is all kind of younger guys, except for maybe Winslow out of that list, which is crazy to say because Winslow still only has 1 year of service in the OHL. So
that's right.
It's impressive. Again, I think it speaks to the job that Adam Dennis has been able to do over the last 2 years now in cultivating all this young talent that does intrigue NHL scouts. That's the biggest thing. You can believe in your own talent as much as you want,
Yeah.
but it's when they start getting picked up by all these camps, that's when you know, okay, we got something going here. It's not just us patting ourselves on the back. Like that is an impressive list. And I really liked what Ryan Olahan had to say on the last podcast that he was on, where he gave some great insight into what it's like in going to these camps as a player, because he got that experience as well with the Detroit Red Wings. But then just hearing him talk about how that now brings back several voices into the locker room who can show the rest of them, or at least can share that experience with the rest of them on a peer-to-peer level. It's one thing to hear it from the coach, who you're hearing a lot of things from, but then it's another to hear it from your line mate, or the guy that's lining up on the blue line next to you saying, hey, this was an awesome experience. Here's the work you got to put in to get there yourself.
Yeah, when you see up close, you know, a Sidney Crosby or a Connor McDavid or a Nate McKinnon, and see the work up close, the work they put in on a daily basis at a training camp.
Oh yeah.
It better inspire you, because because this is the best in the world. This is what the best in the world does, and imparting that. I also think it says a lot about the way they're developing players with the battalion. I think, they talk about that all the time. That's really their job, is to develop players.
Yeah.
To develop players, to turn a Justin Brazeau, a gangly skater, into a pro hockey player, which is what he is. And, just one example, turn a Barclay Goodrow into a Stanley Cup legend, a two-time Stanley Cup legend. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do at this level as a coaching staff, as an organization, is to develop these players so they move on to bigger and better things. And I think the fact that they have so many players, away at camps, is a lot about the way they're being coached and developed on a daily basis.
I think I'm most excited out of all those guys for Joe Verbetic, just because with him being with the Montreal Canadiens, that's a team that got to the Stanley Cup final basically because they have a good goalie. So for Joe Verbetic to go in and learn a little bit and maybe be able to pick the brain of Carey Price, I can't even imagine what an experience that's going to be like for him.
No kidding.
I'm excited for him, just because when we had him on the podcast about almost a year ago now, we asked him, growing up, who was your favorite player, and he said Carey Price. So
yeah,
I'm excited alone for that. I also want to see the pictures of camp with him wearing the red, white, and blue, and then have his battalion green pads on. So I think that would be quite
a little distracting.
Yeah.
Over the years, I don't think I've interviewed a goalie whose favorite goalie wasn't Carey Price. So nothing against Joe. Joe's a great guy. He's going to be a great goalie, and he's going to learn a lot there. But that's a long list.
Honestly,
of guys who love Carey Price. So it's a great opportunity for him, for sure.
It's very true.
For me, a long time, it was you talk to players and it was either Crosby or Ovechkin were their favorite players, right? That was a whole generation worth of me interviewing players. So who's your favorite? Who's your favorite guy to watch right now? Yeah. Oh, Crosby or Ovechkin. It's like I could have wrote that.
Now we're getting the Matthews and McDavid era.
That's it.
Which speaking of, you guys talked about bumping shoulders. So Petrov's going to bump shoulders with McDavid and Draisaitl out in Edmonton. Winslow on his, invite's going to be learning from John Cooper in Tampa, who's only won 2 cups back to back, and the rest of that roster is only won back to back cups. Primo, well, I mean, Vegas, what more can we say about Vegas? Maybe not so much on how they treat their players off the ice, with Marc-Andre Fleury learning about his trade through Twitter, but hey, they've got a winning program right off the hop.
They really do. Yeah.
And they need players who can play center.
Yes, they do.
That's what they need. They need an offensive center. I mean, You know,
There's
that's their
definitely-
big weakness.
There's definitely a road forward for Mason Primo with the Vegas Golden Knights. Absolutely. Brandon Coe, I mean, the Sharks are so interesting because they have a lot of good players, but they're not a good team anymore. Like, you know, they have Carlson, they have Burns, they have Vlasic, they have Couture, you know, and all these guys. And so he gets to bump shoulders with all those guys. Paul Christopoulos, I mean, for years, Carolina's D-core was very underrated, and then they traded away from that depth, and now they're trying to build it back up again. But again, that D-core for years was very underrated, not to mention, you know, Svechnikov, Aho, Montreal fans are going to cringe, but Kotkaniemi, you know, up front as well. Kyle Jackson, former Battalion legend, Matt Duchesne's there, you know, Ryan Johansson.
Speaking of Kyle Jackson, I watched him in the intra-squad games.
Yep.
And he was the most impressive player over the 3 days that I saw. I noticed a real difference in his game, like much more confident, right? Much more confident in front of the net with the puck. You know, using his body differently with his size. And the fact that he's been invited to an NHL camp says a lot about that too. That I don't know if you would have seen that a year ago. You know, he was somebody who, in my view, a couple of years ago, should have been up with the team.
Yeah,
wasn't, and I think it stunted his development a little. But it's obviously he's in the right place hockey wise right now, and he's very impressive. So I'm looking forward to see him play this season for the Battalion.
Yeah, that was 2018, 2019 that he got a couple of cups of coffee with the Battalion. And Bob, you and I, every broadcast, we said there's something about this kid. And, you know, we thought that for sure there was going to be a day where he just got called up permanently, and he never was. And then he, you know, 2019, 2020 was his rookie season.
Yeah.
And yeah, there were times where he was the best player on the ice, and you were just waiting for that moment. So obviously a lot of other teams see that too. And he's a guy that puts a lot of expectation on himself just from talking to him, just being on the road trips with him. Like he expects a lot out of himself. And when he doesn't see the results, he could be pretty tough on himself. But I think, you know, this is very well deserved for Kyle Jackson. I'm a big Kyle Jackson fan. And so, yeah, it's great to see that he's getting that recognition.
Well, and I know he was technically a second-year player at that point when his rookie year, but he led all the rookies, and it was a big and strong rookie class for the Battalion in point scoring. So good for him that year. And then, of course, the pandemic happened and ruined everybody's development. I just wanted to say before we go, I remember when I was asked to guest host the Stan Butler show, but Adam Dennis was my guest. We talked because that was the year Kyle Jackson was up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him on that show, I said, what is it about him? Like, what is it about a Kyle Jackson that you keep going back to as opposed to some other player that you have maybe signed or closer down the road, like playing for the Voodoos or something? And he was even then very blown away with his work ethic, very blown away with his talent level. I think he was rookie of the year in the CCHL playing for the Ottawa Junior Sens, and they went and won a championship. So, hey, he's got championship pedigree. But anyways, gentlemen, we've probably rambled on a little bit too long here this evening. Never. No. With you, the first time we had you on, we only had to cut the episode into 2 parts. So anyways, thanks for joining me as my co-host this evening, Bob. And thanks for coming on, Matt, to discuss the trades. Always appreciate having you guys on. Something tells me in the next week or so, I might be seeing a little bit more of you guys than I have the last few years.
Wonder what that could be.
Possibly. Yes.
That's called a tease.
Yeah. Stay tuned to the Frontline Podcast. We got more coming. Alrighty. Again, a huge thank you to Bob Coles for stepping in at the 11th hour, or as he said, the bottom of the 9th inning, to help me record this episode of the Frontline Podcast. Tom Parisi, you know, like I said, sometimes things just happen. He will be back. It's not, we're not replacing Tom, that's for sure. I don't know what I'd do without that guy. So again, huge thank you to Bob. Huge thank you to Matt as well for coming in and discussing a busy week of transactions for the Battalion. Is probably only going to get busy from here until the trade deadline in early January. So hang on to your hats, and the Frontline's going to have it all for you on, wherever you find us, which we're going to go through here in a moment. So a huge thank you to producer Ben Sargent. A huge thank you to Simon Rose and Mitch Russell. Simon Rose seems real ready. Well, the pair of them seem real ready to get into some game action. So here's hoping that they, I'm pretty excited to see this team. I know I've been drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm very, very excited to see all these guys on the ice, not just the newcomers, but the returning players who are very motivated as well. So again, it's been the Frontline Podcast. What more can I say? You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify Podcasts, as well as YouTube on the Battalion YouTube page. You can find us on your TV, where you can catch, if you're watching it on there and it's the watered down version, you can go to YouTube and catch the whole thing right then and there, available for streaming anytime. Huge thank you to producer Ben Sargent. I know I already thanked him, but his ego's got to take a bit of a boost. He has to get it in there twice. And a huge thanks to the Battalion. Anytime that you see them on social media, we're not too far behind. Also on their website, battalionhockey.com, there's a little tab right there, right on the right side of the screen, where you can find everything the Frontline's doing right there. And as Tom always says, it's been a lot of fun. Let's do it again sometime.